30 years of counterterrorism, billions spent, thousands of troops deployed, but Africa is more unstable than ever. Now, the US military wants out. As AFRICOM pulls back, is Africa being abandoned or finally being left to stand on its own? Let's break it down. Hi, I'm Analytica Today, and this is Analytica Today. The US is reassessing its military presence in Africa. General Michael Langley, head of AFRICOM, recently told African leaders, "If we're that important to you, tell Washington." This comes as the Pentagon pivots from governance and development to burden sharing and scaled back involvement. But what does this mean for you, for Africa, and for the global powers circling like vultures? Today, we will explore the history of US military operations in Africa and what this pivot means for peace, power, and Africa's future. Let's start with where it all began. The US has been active in Africa for more than 75 years. Particularly during the Cold War, Africa was a battleground for US-Soviet rivalries. Washington-backed coups sponsored strongmen and fueled civil wars to block Soviet influence. Angola, Congo, Somalia, Ethiopia, the list is long. These moves destabilized nations, fueling civil wars in Angola, Mozambique, and beyond. Millions died, economies crumbled, and entire generations were robbed of stability. Even after the Cold War ended, US policy didn't change much. After 9/11, the continent became part of the global war on terror. From drone bases in Niger to special ops in Somalia, the US expanded its footprint. AFRICOM, or Africa Command, was created in 2008 to centralize US military activity. Officially, it promoted peace and security, but in reality, it became a tool of hard power in fragile states. Today, AFRICOM wants to retreat. General Langley says the US is reassessing its role. The new message: African nations must take care of their own security. At African Lion 2025, the continent's biggest military drill involving 40 countries, Langley spoke of burden sharing, not governance. The buzzwords now are independent operations and leaner, more lethal force. Why the shift? Partly budget cuts, partly global priorities shifting to the Indo-Pacific and Eastern Europe, and partly a series of military coups across West Africa which forced the US to withdraw troops from countries like Niger. Washington's moral authority is also eroding. In Libya, US-led airstrikes helped topple Gaddafi in 2011, but instead of peace, the region descended into chaos. Weapons flooded the Sahel. Terror groups like Boko Haram and ISIS affiliates took root. Today, the Sahel is the world's epicenter of terrorism. According to the Institute for Economics and Peace, over 50% of global terror deaths in 2024 happened there. It is the same story in the Horn of Africa, where Somalia alone accounted for 6% of global terror deaths. And despite decades of US support, Somalia's military is still struggling. Langley himself admitted the Somali National Army is trying to find their way. So, what happens if the US pulls out? A power vacuum. China is already running military training programs across the continent. Russia, through Wagner Group and other channels, has become the security partner of choice for juntas in Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Central African Republic. The Gulf states, Turkey, Iran, and India are all expanding influence. And none of them are interested in building African prosperity. They just want the resources at dirt cheap prices. For Africa, this is not just about who builds bases. It's about who controls resources, who shapes security policy, and who props up governments. But here lies a dangerous truth. Whether it's the US, China, or Russia, they all want something. And Africa keeps trading sovereignty for security. If the US leaves and others step in, the puppet show continues, just with different puppeteers. So, where does this leave Africa? The US pivot is a wake-up call. Their history in Africa, coups, wars, failed aid hasn't delivered the peace or prosperity they promised. Now, as they back up, Africa faces a choice: remain a pawn in global rivalries or seize this moment to build independent strength. It's not easy. Terrorism, weak militaries, and foreign influence will not vanish overnight. But if not now, when? This moment, as the US steps back, could be Africa's opportunity to take ownership of its future. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm Analytica Today, and this is Analytica Today. Until next time.